Tonight, let's get cozy and listen to the story of how manga grew up in Japan. In this 1-hour episode, we'll explore 7 decades of history together. Sweet dreams, my dear listener. In 1952, post-war Japan regained independence and began rebuilding. Children embraced manga and kamishibai street shows, while Osamu Tezuka's Astro Boy became a major hit, transforming the manga industry. As censorship eased, family-friendly and martial arts stories emerged, alongside global recognition for Japanese cinema. Tezuka later pioneered shoujo manga and transitioned into animation, founding Mushi Productions. His works, like Astro Boy and Kimba the White Lion, laid the foundation for modern anime. In 1953, the Korean War ended, and Japan's economy thrived by supporting U.S. efforts. Television began to spread, with NHK and NTV launching broadcasts. Osamu Tezuka continued innovating with Princess Knight and bold adaptations like Crime and Punishment. Manga rental shops emerged, making stories more accessible and shifting the industry's focus to readership over sales. Ninjas returned to the spotlight, and Japanese cinema gained global acclaim with films like Tokyo Story and Gates of Hell. In 1954, U.S. nuclear testing near Japan sparked anti-nuclear movements and inspired Godzilla, launching the kaiju genre. Manga began crossing into other media, while shoujo magazines like Nakayoshi emerged after Princess Knight's success. A shipping policy change forced publishers to bundle paper-only extras, increasing workload and straining mangaka. The industry faced a talent crisis, worsened by the early death of Eiichi Fukui. Recognizing the need for new voices, Osamu Tezuka mentored young artists, including the future legends Fujiko Fujio. In 1955, Tokyo boomed as people flocked to the capital, drawn by rising salaries and urban opportunity. The economy surged in the Jimmu boom, leading to the formation of the long-ruling Liberal Democratic Party. But rapid growth masked social unrest, urban chaos, youth alienation, and rising inequality. Season of the Sun captured this mood, heralding a rebellious youth culture. Meanwhile, manga faced growing criticism from concerned adults, even as a new wave of talent emerged. Takao Saito began his career, and Reborn debuted Toshiko Ueda's Bonko-chan, a hit with schoolgirls and a sign of things to come. In 1956, Japan embraced innovation, joining the UN and expanding trade with China. The giant robot Tetsujin 28 Go symbolized a nation charging into the future, but beneath the optimism lay unrest. Workers' strikes were crushed. Environmental disasters like Minamata's mercury poisoning began surfacing, and social inequality grew. Tezuka's adult-focused lion books underperformed, while a darker genre was quietly born, Gekiga. With Keige magazine, young artists like Yoshihiro Tatsumi and Takao Saito pioneered gritty, pulp-inspired stories that reflected a harsher post-war reality, laying the foundation for manga's next revolution. In 1957, ultra-nationalist Nobusuke Kishi became prime minister, igniting a wave of strikes and unrest as he sought to revive pre-war values and dismantle post-war democracy. Yet, amid political tension, Sony's TR-63 pocket radio transformed media consumption, boosting manga's popularity through radio dramas like Akado Suzunosuke. Multimedia adaptations gave manga characters new cultural power. While Emonogatari waned, Ribbon's Marumi-chan captured readers' hearts with a clever girl detective, expanding shoujo manga's horizons. Despite turmoil, manga's reach deepened, setting the stage for the genre's diversification and future boom. The 1958 Iwado boom saw booming growth, new spending power, and TVs in 1/3 of homes. While Prime Minister Kishi faced backlash and political deadlocks, pop culture exploded. Moonlight Mask debuted as Japan's first TV superhero, and Panda and the Magic Serpent became the nation's first color-animated feature film. Cinema still reigned for adults, but manga dominated youth culture, especially war-themed Senki Mono, like Shigeru Mizuki's debut works. Though largely escapist, titles like Roboto Santohei hinted at more thoughtful war narratives. Even politics embraced manga, as the ruling party used the format to spread its message. In 1959, the royal wedding captivated the public, but political unrest surged as students and socialists protested Kishi's policies. Sanpei Shirato's Ninja Bugeicho echoed this rebellion, helping spark the rise of political gekiga, as Yoshihiro Tatsumi founded Gekiga Kobo. Meanwhile, Kodansha and Shogakukan launched their first weekly manga magazines, Shonen Magazine and Shonen Sunday, triggering a fierce publishing rivalry that revolutionized manga distribution. TV expanded with live-action Astro Boy, and cinema saw success with Magic Boy and the Three Treasures, the latter signaling a revival of traditional Shinto themes. A cultural rebirth was underway, though not without growing pains. 1960 was a year of nationwide turmoil, as Prime Minister Kishi's forced ratification of the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty ignited massive protests, culminating in the death of student Michiko Kanba and the televised assassination of socialist leader Asanuma. These events led to Kishi's resignation. The political unrest fueled a new professionalism in Gekiga, with Saito Productions leading the charge. Weekly manga magazines flourished amid a TV boom, expanding in size and integrating sports and cultural content. Young talents like Shotaro Ishinomori emerged, though most series remained short and undifferentiated in the fast-growing competitive market. In 1961, Prime Minister Ikeda calmed national tensions by ending the Maiki labor conflict and steering Japan into a period of rapid economic growth, 14.4%. With unemployment at just 1.4%, a mass rural exodus fed booming industries like shipbuilding. Manga reflected this energy. Leiji Matsumoto debuted in sci-fi with Denko Ozuma, and Gekiga embraced genres from Tarzan-style survival to westerns. Shoujo manga evolved as Hideko Misuno's Hoshi no Tategoto connected deeply with teen girls. Weekly magazines fully embraced comics, and Japan's first animated TV series, Otogi Manga Calendar, marked the start of the anime era. In 1962, Japan's economic boom accelerated, with wages rising 11% yearly and consumer goods like TVs and fridges reaching nearly every home. But rapid growth came at a cost. 160 died in a deadly train crash, forcing a safety overhaul. On the world stage, Japan was still underestimated, even as King Kong vs. Godzilla drew record crowds and Flesh Market launched the pink Ege genre. Manga surged. Osomatsu-kun dominated Shonen Sunday, while Himitsu no Ako-chan debuted the magical girl genre. As shonen expanded, shoujo rose too. Shoujo Friend, the first weekly for girls, debuted amid fierce publishing rivalries and rising academic pressure on youth. In 1963, Japan entered the nuclear age and the anime era, as Astro Boy launched TV animation with 193 episodes, thanks to Tezuka's bold vision. Sci-fi took off with 8-Man and Big X, and Ishinomori's work at the new Studio Zero revolutionized youth series. Shoujo manga heated up with Margaret joining Shoujo Friend, shifting focus almost entirely to comics. As Japan chased economic growth and Olympic readiness, trade remained restricted and pollution worsened. A wrongful arrest in the Sayama case sparked outrage over discrimination and police bias. Meanwhile, cinema thrived but mourned the passing of master director Yasujiro Ozu. In 1964, the Tokyo Olympics showcased Japan's modern rebirth, with the bullet train and monorail impressing the world. Japan joined the OECD, signaling the start of globalization, echoed in Ishinomori's International Heroes and Cyborg 009. Workers struggling with urban hardship found a voice in Garo, a new magazine born from the Gekiga movement, with Sanpei Shirato's Marxist Ninja, Epic Kamui Den, at its heart. Ninjas took over manga and TV alike, from Ninja Hattori-kun to Phantom Agents, while kids adored Obeka no Kyutaro. Even Hayao Miyazaki quietly entered the scene through Fujimaru of the Wind. In 1965, Japan entered the Izanagi boom, an economic miracle driven by tax cuts and the Vietnam War's industrial demands. Osamu Tezuka's Kimba the White Lion became the first Japanese color TV anime, airing internationally. Sci-fi thrived with Ambassador Magma, while Kazuo Umezu shocked shoujo readers with the horror manga Reptilia. Fujiko Fujio's Kaibutsu-kun added monster comedy to manga, while monster films like Invasion of Astro Monster entertained the masses. Protests flared over U.S. military bases and the Japan-Korea Treaty, though pop culture helped distract a restless nation. In 1966, Japan balanced a love-hate relationship with Western culture as the Beatles played the Nippon Budokan amid protests. U.S. pop culture spread through Batmania and Popeye, while Japanese media reinterpreted American icons, like Sally the Witch, a magical girl anime inspired by Western superheroes. Baseball became samurai-like in Kyojin no Hoshi, and Speed Racer, aired 1967, bridged both nations' screens. Meanwhile, Japan forged its own path with Ultraman, Ultra Q, and Ambassador Magma, launching a tokusatsu boom fueled by Godzilla's creators and merchandising success. In 1967, Japan cracked down on radical youth culture by launching a censorship agency that blacklisted controversial manga. Even creators like Tetsuya Chiba and Ikki Kajiwara were monitored. Despite pressure, manga matured, reaching adult readers through magazines like Calm and dark stories like Tezuka's Dororo. Pollution scandals like Minamata sparked social unrest, with mothers leading grassroots activism. Women also gained ground in manga. Miyako Maki helped inspire the Rika-chan doll, and Masako Watanabe shifted toward adult stories. Female sports manga emerged with Attack No. 1, while rebellious pink Eiga films like Slave Widow tackled taboo issues head-on. In 1968, Japan erupted with political unrest as thousands clashed with police in Sasebo to protest a visiting U.S. nuclear aircraft carrier. Student activism reached a peak, coinciding with the fictional rise of underdog fighter Joe Yabuki in Ashita no Joe. Meanwhile, manga publishing entered a new era with the launch of Shonen Jump on July 2nd. Unlike its older, more traditional rivals, it offered fast-paced, visually bold stories like Harenchi Gekuen and captured the hearts of younger readers. For older audiences, the adult manga scene blossomed with the rise of magazines like Big Comic, laying the groundwork for the seinen genre. Osamu Tezuka adapted by producing darker, more mature works, like Swallowing the Earth. As demand surged, classic manga like Tensai Bakabon were reprinted across multiple publications, giving their creators a lasting legacy. In 1969, student protests escalated with violent clashes and the rise of radical groups like the Japanese Red Army. At the same time, the Buddhist-backed Komeito Party gained political ground. Manga boomed, with Shonen Jump, Shonen Champion, and Bakura magazine joining the race. Go Nagai's The Abashiri Family, and the debut of Hitman, Gol Go. 13 reflected a shift toward adult themes. Shoujo manga embraced flower power with fire, while Doraemon made his debut, becoming a beloved icon. A Moomin's anime controversy also made headlines when creator Tove Jansson pulled her approval from Toei. In 1970, Japan's economy soared, but overcrowding and urban stress led to the rise of grassroots activism, including the first feminist group, Uman Ribu. Manga reflected social tensions. Terrorists hijacked a plane declaring, "We are the Joes of tomorrow," referencing Ishida no Joe. Lone Wolf and Cub launched with graphic, influential storytelling. American influence peaked with Moon Rocks at the Osaka Expo, and even Spider-Man manga. Manga sales exploded. Shonen Magazine hit 1.5 million weekly copies, and Shonen Jump surpassed 1 million, solidifying manga's place in Japanese pop culture. In 1971, Japan faced a pollution crisis, captured by Spectremen and Otoko Oiden. Heroes like Kamen Rider fought for nature, reflecting rising eco-awareness. Economically, Nixon ended dollar-gold convertibility, shaking global markets and raising the yen's value. Manga responded to a shifting society. Osamu Tezuka left Mushi Pro to focus on Phoenix and Lion books through his own studio. Shonen Jump gained ground, boosted by martial arts trends like Karate Master. Meanwhile, Go Nagai shocked with dark, controversial works like Demon Lord Dante, setting the stage for Devilman and sparking moral panic over manga's perverse themes. In 1972, Okinawa was officially returned to Japan, but political turmoil continued as the Japanese Red Army carried out the Lod Airport massacre and a hostage crisis that captivated 90% of TV viewers. While Japan resumed relations with China and hosted the Sapporo Winter Olympics, domestic politics were rocked by corruption and land speculation scandals. Feminism gained ground. Women voted in greater numbers and rallied nationally, mirrored in manga, like The Rose of Versailles, Lady Snowblood, and Tezuka's Ayako. Tezuka also published Buddha, while Go Nagai shocked with Devilman and thrilled kids with Mazinger Z. Manga flourished creatively, in contrast to the formulaic tokusatsu shows on TV. In 1973, Japan was hit hard by the global oil crisis, causing inflation that tripled food and textile prices. Amid panic buying, Anpanman was created as a symbol of self-sacrifice. The economy slowed, and political corruption deepened, especially after Japan's failure to handle the kidnapping of Kim Dae-jung. Amid public disillusionment, Tezuka's Black Jack portrayed an underground doctor, reflecting both social decay and hope. Shonen Jump overtook its rivals thanks to innovation and hit titles like Playball and Captain, while Barefoot Gen exposed the horrors of war. Shoujo manga flourished too, driven by the feminist Year 24 group. In 1974, Prime Minister Tanaka resigned amid scandal, and Takeo Miki stepped in to restore trust. Political disillusionment affected manga too. Independent political manga faded, though Kazuhiko Miyaya stirred controversy with Dabire no Nemuruhi. Takashi Ishii shocked readers with violent gekiga, while Ryoichi Ikegami's Otokogumi became a hit, blending high school gang wars with political intrigue. Meanwhile, battles without honor and humanity ended, redefining Yakuza as corrupt rather than noble. Shonen manga still had rebellious flair with Go Nagai's gender-bending comedy Oira Sukuban, while occult and hobby genres gained ground through Tezuka's Mitsume ga Toru and Tsurikichi Sanpei. In 1975, Japan bounced back from the oil crisis by embracing energy efficiency and high-tech industries. It was also the UN's International Year of the Woman, with Japanese women making headlines, like Junko Tabei becoming the first woman to summit Everest. Female manga authors thrived too, as new magazines and the modern teen press gained traction. Shonen Jump leaned into paranormal and racing manga, with hits like Kyofu Shimbun and Circuit no Okami. Meanwhile, Comiket debuted, an amateur manga festival born from the photocopier boom, marking the quiet start of the otaku revolution. In 1976, Kochikame debuted in Shonen Jump, bringing warm satire and local color to manga, and eventually becoming the longest-running series in Jump history. Meanwhile, Ryu Murakami's shocking novel, Almost Transparent Blue, and Osamu Tezuka's dark thriller M.W. pushed boundaries in literature and manga, signaling a growing maturity in adult storytelling. Shoujo manga had its golden year. Keiko Takemiya's Kaze to Ki no Uta revolutionized boys' love. Glass Mask debuted, and the Year 24 group boldly expanded the genre's emotional and artistic scope. Shoujo led the market, pulling in 160 million yen and reshaping manga for a new generation. In 1977, a dark tone swept through shonen manga. Disasters, dystopias, and disillusioned youth-filled pages in Toward the Terra, Violence Jack, Galaxy Express 999, and more. Real-life fears, pollution, earthquakes, and rising youth violence echoed through the medium. Schools cracked down with nationalism, ignoring reports that stress was driving teen suicides. Amid this gloom, a bright spot emerged. Koro Koro Comic launched for children, featuring Doraemon and embracing the booming world of video games with Game Center Arashi. It planted seeds for a future dominated by franchises like Pokémon. In 1978, romantic comedy began to blossom in manga thanks to Mitsuru Adachi, Rumiko Takahashi, Urusei Yatsura, and Kimio Yanagisawa, laying the foundation for the 1980s love-com boom. Meanwhile, Japan's punk scene exploded, creating a gritty, rebellious underground culture that would influence future artists like Kyoko Okazaki. Sci-fi took center stage with Buichi Terasawa's Cobra, mixing Star Wars with French cinema. Animage magazine debuted, heralding anime's rise as high art. Tech enthusiasm surged alongside pop culture, with robots, satellites, and early works from a then-unknown Akira Toriyama, inspired by Star Wars. In 1979, Japan showed economic pride with exports like the Walkman, and a return to imperial-era dating, while hiding growing national debt and rising youth violence. Kinnikuman poked fun at foreign heroes, while Mr. Kinpachi in Class 3B addressed teen troubles seriously. This year saw anime legends born. Mobile Suit Gundam redefined mecha, and The Rose of Versailles brought emotional depth to shoujo. Pataliro twisted gender norms with comedic shonen ai, and Tezuka's Don Dracula used humor to cope with modern Tokyo. Meanwhile, arcade games exploded, with predictions they'd outshine manga and anime in the 21st century. In 1980, Japan topped global car production, but manga was still overlooked internationally, even as Tezuka presented it at the UN. Domestically, manga thrived. Young Magazine shook up the youth market with Otomo's Domu, while B-Love launched the josei genre for adult women. Mitsuru Adachi and Rumiko Takahashi scored hits across demographics. Shonen Jump ruled with Dr. Slump and Kimengumi in a market worth 240 billion yen. Anime floundered with uninspired Robot Wars post-Gundam, but nostalgia prevailed. Astro Boy and Tetsujin 28 re-aired, and Tokyo opened a museum honoring Ukiyo-e, manga's ancestor. In 1981, Japan faced global pressure over its $20 billion trade surplus and agreed to limit exports while strengthening its self-defense forces. Internationalization accelerated. Family Mart opened. Tokyo hosted its first marathon, and anime co-productions like Ulysses 31 and Superbook emerged. Toei dominated animation with Dr. Slump, Galaxy Express 999, and Queen Millennia. Meanwhile, Captain Tsubasa sparked a soccer boom, Cat's Eye charmed readers, and touch-blended sports and romance. Shoujo manga broke barriers with A Prime by Moto Hagio, as Shonen AI gained mainstream acceptance with June's return. In 1982, Japan's car makers began relocating production overseas, while CDs revolutionized global media. NEC released Japan's first PC, and tensions rose over nationalist textbook revisions. Shoujo manga turned lighthearted with Aishite Knight and Georgie, while shonen expanded into comedy. Gugu Ganmo, ninja action, Fuma no Kajiro, and romance, Neko Janaimon. Shonen Ai entered TV with Patalero. Meanwhile, Japan's darker future was imagined in Akira and Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. Manga's adult turn saw the rise of lolicon magazines, while Osamu Tezuka's presence at Angoulême went largely unnoticed outside France. In 1983, manga publishers perfected age-based segmentation, creating titles for every life stage. Morning rose as the go-to manga for salarymen with Kacho Shima Kosaku, while Big Comic Spirits and Young Magazine captured college-age readers with series like Oshinbo and Akira. Kodansha scored hits with Iron Fist Chinmi and Bari Bari Densetsu. Meanwhile, the Famicom revolutionized home entertainment, selling 450,000 units in 6 months. On TV, the historical drama Ocean captivated over half the nation, chronicling a woman's rise from poverty to success, while manga and media mirrored the struggles and fantasies of post-war Japan. In 1984, Japan's booming VCR market gave rise to the OVA, original video animation format, initially flooded with adult content, but soon embraced for creative storytelling. Studios like Gainax began experimenting with bold ideas, while genres like mecha and sci-fi flourished. Manga also shifted, with works like Kimagure Orange Road and A Girl breaking traditional gender roles. Urusei Yatsura. Beautiful Dreamer critiqued the industry itself, and Yonkoma, 4-panel manga, gained popularity through new family-friendly magazines. In 1985, Japan's economic bubble began, marked by risky investments and consumerism, often fueled by shady loan offices and yakuza schemes, later captured in manga like Ushijima, the Lone Shark. This boom brought explosive growth to the manga industry, with bold experimentation across genres. Highlights included Banana Fish, a gritty shoujo crime drama, City Hunter, Cooking Papa, and Mahjong Hishuden. New magazines like Business Jump also pushed creative boundaries. In 1986, manga and video games merged as hits like Dragon Quest, promoted by Shonen Jump, boosted both industries. Publishers adapted fresh trends, from cooking battles in Mr. Ajiko to strong female leads in You're Under Arrest. Saint Seiya became a sensation, sparking a rise in Bishonen characters and yaoi fan works. Meanwhile, glam rock visual kei and a shift toward individualism reflected broader changes in Japanese society and manga themes. 1987 saw Japan shift away from its welfare state, leading to economic pressure on the middle class and growing inequality. These struggles would later shape many manga, from the light, GTO, to the grim, Kaiji. Meanwhile, manga continued to explore both escapism and deeper themes. 3x3 eyes mixed demons with modern life. Tezuka's Gringo questioned corporate disillusionment, and Rumiko Takahashi balanced comedy, Ranma 1-2, with reflection, 1-pound gospel. Shoujo regained depth through Saki Hiwatari's Please Save My Earth, a landmark ecological and spiritual sci-fi epic. In 1988, Japan's booming economy fueled luxury lifestyles. Golf, manga surged as executives hit the greens, but women, still sidelined at work despite the 1985 equality law, inspired a rise in josei and erotic redikomi, led by artists like Milk Morizono. Male readers turned to tough Yankee delinquents in hits like Rokudanashi Blues and Kiyokara Urawa, while seinen embraced realism with Parasite and Master Keaton. Shonen leaned deeper into fantasy under Dragon Ball's influence, spawning clones like Yaiba and Magical Teruruto. In 1989, Japan's bubble neared its breaking point as Emperor Hirohito's death ended the Showa era, and Tezuka's death marked manga's own farewell to a golden age. The Nikki hit a record high, but corruption scandals toppled Prime Minister Takeshita, and the gruesome crimes of the otaku killer triggered a moral panic around manga. Erotic and violent titles like LA Blue Girl and 1+2 = Paradise came under fire, while Shonen Magazine pivoted to safer ground with sports hits like Hajime no Ippo. Meanwhile, Video Girl A blended romance with softcore appeal, and Ghost in the Shell stirred sci-fi with sensuality. Manga's boom showed no signs of slowing, even as cracks began to form. In 1990, as Japan entered the Heisei era and faced an economic downturn after its asset bubble burst, manga began reflecting the uncertain mood of the time. Despite economic hardship, popular titles like Yu Yu Hakusho, Slam Dunk, Berserk, and Tokyo Babylon rose to prominence. The stories grew darker, tackling themes of social change and chaos. Second-hand manga stores like Book Off thrived, while contrasting characters like Crayon Shin-chan and Chibi Maruko-chan mirrored the shifting cultural tone. In 1991, as Japan's economy teetered on the edge of collapse, manga continued to flourish with bold new directions. Sailor Moon debuted, blending magical girl themes with action and becoming a cultural icon. Manga explored fashion, gothic themes, and gritty realism with titles like Die to Die, Silent Mobius, and Gunsmith Cats. Despite rising competition, Shonen Jump dominated the market. Meanwhile, the West began to discover Japanese pop culture, though confusion grew as companies like Manga Entertainment blurred the line between manga and anime. In 1992, Japan's economy slowed sharply, with uncertainty reflected in its manga. Political and provocative works like Gomenism Sengen emerged, while darker and experimental titles such as X and Golden Boy signaled a shift from tradition. The yaoi genre gained visibility with new magazines and publishers, and both shonen and shoujo manga became more formulaic, yet widespread. OVAs offered a home for mature stories, and visual key music, led by bands like X Japan, echoed youth disillusionment during a time of national anxiety. In 1993, Japan entered a recession and saw political change as the LDP lost power for the first time in decades. Manga reflected economic hardship through darker seinen stories like Tekken Crete and Happy. Meanwhile, Shonen Jump thrived with hits like Dragon Ball Z, which expanded into games and movies. Manga's influence grew beyond print, inspiring shows like Iron Chef. Despite economic struggles, manga remained a cultural stronghold, offering both escapism and reflection during tough times. In 1994, Japan faced political instability and economic stagnation, with its currency weakened and growth nearly flat. Amid the national anxiety, manga provided both escapism and reflection. Salaryman Kintaro resonated with struggling workers, while crime-themed series like Monster and Case Closed gained popularity amid real-life violence. Rurouni Kenshin boosted Jump's lineup, while Shonen Sunday thrived with hits like Major. The magical girl genre, led by Sailor Moon, saw both revival and parody. Despite rising print numbers, the manga industry showed early signs of saturation, echoing wider social and cultural tensions. In 1995, Japan was shaken by real-life tragedies, including the Kobe earthquake and the Tokyo subway sarin gas attack, echoing the dark tone of new manga like Dragonhead. Amid national anxiety, hits like Neon Genesis Evangelion and Ghost in the Shell reflected societal unease, while isekai tales like El Hazard offered escapism. With Dragon Ball ending, Jump struggled to find a replacement. Level E challenged readers with a unique tone, while Initial D gained a loyal following among racing fans. Meanwhile, Love Mode helped legitimize the boys' love genre with its mature storytelling. In 1996, shoujo manga saw a bold revival, tackling complex topics like trauma, identity, and feminism, in works such as Mars, Tower of the Future, and Revolutionary Girl Utena. Moyoko Anno's Happy Mania reflected modern womanhood with humor and honesty. Meanwhile, boys' manga remained formulaic, though Inuyasha stood out. Yu-Gi-Oh! Shifted focus to card battles, sparking a massive merchandising boom alongside Pokémon and Tamagotchi. The year also marked the passing of Doraemon's co-creator, Hiroshi Fujimoto, touching readers across generations. In 1997, amid Japan's prolonged economic slump and cultural unrest, the manga industry faced a downturn after the end of major hits like Dragon Ball and Slam Dunk. Yet, hope emerged as One Piece debuted, reviving Shueisha's fortunes. As youth rejected authority and embraced rebellion, series like GTO captured their spirit, while darker stories like MPD Psycho and Hellsing appealed to older readers. Even beloved franchises like Pokémon stirred controversy, and Miyazaki's Princess Mononoke echoed the era's disillusionment. In 1998, Japan's recession deepened despite government efforts, hitting all sectors, including publishing. While One Piece gave Shonen Jump a brief lift, overall manga sales declined. Shueisha diversified with new hits like Shaman King and Hunter x Hunter, while Kodansha offered standout titles such as Blame, Vagabond, and Love Hina. In shoujo manga, Fruits Basket stood out alongside popular adaptations like Cardcaptor Sakura. Meanwhile, underground titles like Bambi and Her Pink Gun pushed boundaries with bold female leads. In 1999, Japan sought optimism after a tough decade, with pop hits like Love Machine lifting spirits. Manga reflected this search for meaning. 20th century boys captured societal fears, while Planets and Mushishi offered hope through space dreams and spiritual renewal. Meanwhile, Shonen Jump began to rebound, launching future hits like Naruto and The Prince of Tennis. Competing publishers leaned into realism, with series like Beck and Get Backers, grounding supernatural or musical stories in everyday life. In 2000, Japan saw political turbulence and cultural shifts. As Prime Minister Keizo Obuchi fell ill, Yoshiro Mori took over, stirring controversy with outdated rhetoric and public gaffes. National introspection followed scandals like the Comfort Women testimonies and a major archaeological fraud. Meanwhile, technology surged ahead. Japan led in mobile innovation and gaming, with PlayStation 2 dominating. Manga faced a decline in magazine numbers, prompting reprints and conflicts with creators. New hits like Battle Royale, Gantz, and Nana resonated with younger audiences, especially women, while musicians like Mai Kuraki echoed past manga industry highs with record-breaking sales. In 2001, amid economic decline and national tragedies, Japan's manga reflected a darker tone. Violent events influenced gritty titles like Bleach and Ichi the Killer, while hope emerged through reformist politics and inspiring works like Fullmetal Alchemist, Nodame Cantabile, and Real. Female creators gained ground, and anime reached new global heights with Spirited Away, marking a turning point in Japan's cultural influence. In 2002, as Japan struggled with economic decline and political tension, manga expressed rising social discontent. Series like Akumetsu, Kiichi, and Gunslinger Girl reflected frustration with authority, while anime gained global momentum through events like the first Tokyo International Anime Fair. Shonen titles relied on familiar themes, sports, food, and school life, while female readers turned to darker, more emotionally complex stories, signaling a shift in audience expectations. In 2003, amid political reforms and lingering economic woes, manga offered hope and escape. Reiji Yamada's Zetsubo Nikiku Kusuri captured the national mood, while new works like Pluto, Death Note, and Gintama blended introspection with humor. Publishers experimented with magical schools, crossovers like X Kanryu X Holic x Tsubasa, and live-action revivals. Meanwhile, characters who defied norms, whether chefs, models, or delinquents, reflected Japan's shifting society, where even pets outnumbered children. In 2004, amid Japan's political and social shifts, the manga industry faced new challenges from rising digital distractions like social media and handheld consoles. While Square Enix thrived with diverse stories, shoujo manga leaned heavily on familiar romance themes. Liquor-themed series gained popularity, and manga sales began favoring bound volumes over magazines. 15 years after Tezuka's death, both manga and animation evolved, with notable works like Howl's Moving Castle, Appleseed, and The Place Promised in Our Early Days, reflecting a changing era. In 2005, political tensions rose as Prime Minister Koizumi pushed reforms and faced backlash from China over historical issues. Meanwhile, Akihabara celebrated otaku culture with Densha Otoko and the debut of idol group AKB48. Romance and parenting themes gained traction in manga, while darker or more absurd stories like Solanin and Detroit Metal City captured the struggles of a new generation. Despite setbacks in the yaoi industry, quick restructuring kept the market stable. In 2006, Japan's manga market dipped below 500 billion yen for the first time, highlighting a long-developing industry decline. As mobile phones gained popularity and digital platforms like Keitai Manga Okoku emerged, publishers began experimenting with interactive manga. New titles like Fairy Tail launched, while Saint Seiya was revived with fresh takes. Young female artists blurred genre lines. Black Butler and Ottoman stood out for subverting gender norms. Despite creative success, the rise of gaming consoles like the Wii continued to pull audiences away from reading. In 2007, political instability shook Japan as Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's approval plummeted, though Foreign Minister Taro Aso gained attention by promoting manga globally through the International Manga Prize. With print sales dropping, publishers embraced foreign markets and live-action adaptations of popular series. Music and manga intersected more deeply, seen in K-On! And Kids on the Slope. While some stories reached for the stars like Space Brothers, others, like Goodnight Pun-Pun, reflected a generation's disillusionment. In 2008, Japan faced economic turmoil amid the global subprime crisis, prompting Prime Minister Yasuo Fukuda's resignation and the rise of Taro Aso, who launched a 60 billion yen stimulus. Meanwhile, globalization impacted the manga industry. Western celebrities like Stan Lee and Courtney Love collaborated with Japanese artists, and titles like Toriko, Bakuman, and Kuroko's Basketball brought traditional manga appeal back to Shueisha. The year also saw a surge in media mix strategies, with franchises like Clannad spanning multiple formats to target otaku consumers. However, a deadly stabbing in Akihabara on June 8th cast a shadow over the district, halting its pedestrian-only Sundays and marking a dark moment amid the rise of cool Japan culture. In 2009, Japan's manga industry faced declining magazine sales, especially among shoujo titles, while bound volumes like One Piece remained strong. Digital self-publishing rose, with webcomics like One Punch Man gaining popularity. Amid economic and political shifts, manga reflected dark societal moods, exploring themes of apocalypse, survival, and violence. In 2010, amid political instability and economic decline, Japan's manga industry struggled, especially small publishers, while dark, depressive stories dominated new releases. Government support for cool Japan aimed to boost cultural exports. Meanwhile, Gegege no Nyobo, the memoir of Shigeru Mizuki's wife, became a surprise hit, reconnecting audiences with manga's historical roots. In 2011, Japan's manga industry faced censorship fears due to new regulations, but focus shifted after the Tohoku earthquake and Fukushima nuclear disaster. These events deeply influenced manga themes, prompting titles like Terraformars and Silver Spoon. With print disrupted, publishers embraced free digital releases. Meanwhile, Ken Akamatsu launched J. Komi, pioneering legal online manga access. In 2012, manga faced falling sales amid post-Fukushima anxiety and growing anti-nuclear sentiment. One Piece dominated, but overall market numbers neared historic lows. Publishers leaned on cross-media strategies, light novel tie-ins, and nostalgia. Hits like One Punch Man, Assassination Classroom, and Mix signaled hope as manga began adapting to a changing cultural and digital landscape. In 2013, Shinzo Abe's return to power marked Japan's push to recover economically and reshape its global image post-Fukushima. Anti-nuclear sentiment persisted, reflected in manga like Daisy 3.11 and Nuclear Anger, yet escapist fantasy still dominated sales, led by One Piece and Terraformars. Publishers began pivoting toward digital, with apps like Manga Box, while nurturing new talents with fresh series like My Love Story and Welcome to the Ballroom. As Hayao Miyazaki retired, a new generation of filmmakers, like Mamoru Hosoda, hinted at the evolving future of Japanese storytelling. In 2014, Japan's political tensions and economic unease shaped its cultural climate. Shinzo Abe's visit to the Yasukuni Shrine sparked international backlash, drawing comparisons to Voldemort, while his domestic decisions, like increasing the VAT and proposing constitutional reform, stirred public discontent, especially among housewives. Amid this turmoil, Naruto ended its 17-year run, symbolizing the end of an era. Yet manga showed resilience. Attack on Titan nearly rivaled One Piece in sales, and My Hero Academia debuted, hinting at global potential. While sequels dominated, the growing foreign market and demographic decline reminded Japan that manga's fate was inseparable from its nation's future. In 2015, amid political unrest and economic uncertainty in Japan, the manga industry saw no major new hits. While spin-offs and fantasy parodies gained traction, new works from renowned creators underperformed. Social issues appeared in titles like My Brother's Husband, reflecting ongoing struggles, though legal protections remained absent. Despite shifts in gaming trends, manga faced a period of transition and modest reception. In 2016, Japan saw shifts in politics and pop culture. Yuriko Koike became Tokyo's first female governor, while digital manga sales surged despite declines in print. Isekai stories rose in popularity, though some publishers began rejecting them due to overuse. Iconic titles like One Piece dominated, but overall sales were modest. Younger fans supported animation through crowdfunding, and political changes included lowering the voting age to 18, reflecting growing youth involvement. In 2017, amid political tensions from a North Korean missile launch, Japan's government pursued constitutional reform, though low voter turnout signaled public disengagement. In manga, Dr. Stone and To Your Eternity stood out for originality, while Mob Psycho 100 ended its run after a strong online following. Traditional boosts from anime adaptations faded, as series like Boruto underperformed. Smaller publishers faced tough competition, though critical acclaim for works like Blood on the Tracks showed manga's continued exploration of deep social issues. In 2018, Japan's manga industry confronted rising online piracy, prompting legal reforms amid massive revenue loss. As traditional magazines declined, digital platforms and web serialization flourished, giving rise to surprise hits like BL Metamorphosis and Life Lessons with Uramichi Onisin. While Shonen Jump celebrated its 50th anniversary, the industry increasingly embraced online publication as a new creative and economic model, marking a turning point in manga distribution. In 2019, Japan entered the Reiwa era as Emperor Akihito abdicated, only the second emperor to do so in over 2 centuries, marking the end of a modern, people-centered reign. This transition coincided with growing international attention, including hosting the G20 and the Rugby World Cup. Manga reflected global influences, especially the superhero trend inspired by Marvel and My Hero Academia. While Raw Hero pushed adult boundaries, traditional media adapted, as seen in the removal of adult magazines ahead of the Tokyo Olympics. Ecological concerns and outdated LGBTQ+ policies clashed with Japan's pop culture progress, while Natsuzora, NHK's 100th morning drama, honored anime pioneer Reiko Okuyama and became a national hit. In 2020, amid Japan's COVID-19 crisis, the manga industry thrived despite delays in print releases. Digital platforms surged, with publishers offering hundreds of free volumes online, boosting readership. Digital manga sales surpassed print for the first time, setting a record-breaking market value. New series launched successfully on Jump Plus and Twitter, with topics ranging from gender to comedy. Despite a wave of progressive stories, traditional shonen remained dominant, led by Demon Slayer, Mugen Train, which became Japan's highest-grossing animated film. In 2021, Japan faced new COVID-19 waves, the loss of major manga creators like Kentaro Miura, and a somber, crowdless Olympics. Yet manga remained strong. Evangelion's final film and Attack on Titan's last volume found huge success. Digital platforms thrived with hits like Dandadan and Look Back, while publishers balanced new ideas with nostalgic returns, such as Four Nights of the Apocalypse and JoJo spin-offs. Despite print sales dropping, the industry kept evolving, blending innovation with legacy. In 2022, Japan faced lingering COVID-19 effects and economic challenges, especially for vulnerable workers. While print struggled, manga and anime saw growing success abroad, with legal streaming and platforms like Disney Plus expanding. China's media restrictions and South Korean webtoons also pressured the industry. Digital sales still lagged, but publishers eyed global growth. Domestically, tourism hoped to rebound with the opening of Ghibli Park and anime-related travel promotions tied to popular series like Demon Slayer and Natsume's Book of Friends. Thank you for listening. Sweet dreams, my dear listener. This history will be continued.